Hey, it's me again. In this video, we're going to talk about a special situation with diabetes type 1, okay, and potassium. There's a kind of a rare situation in which your potassium levels in your blood go too high with diabetes type 1. And I want to explain how that works. Insulin controls potassium in the cell. So if you have more insulin, there'll be more potassium that goes in the cell. Now, if you have insulin resistance, it's not going to go in the cell because it's blocked, okay? But normally, insulin drives potassium in the cell where it should be stored. 98% of all your potassium in your body is inside the cell, not outside the cell, or even in your blood. You only have 2% in your blood. So in diabetes type 1, where you don't have enough insulin, okay, because you have to inject yourself, that means that you can't drive the potassium in the cell anymore. So inside the cell, you're going to have very low amounts of intracellular potassium. And I'm going to put a link down below, which I highly recommend if you're type 1 to get this test. It's an intracellular potassium test, and it checks all the minerals. But I think that's very important because if you go to the doctor and you get your blood tested and it's high, that doesn't necessarily mean it's high in the cell, okay? It means it's high in the blood. Why? Because you don't have enough insulin to drive it in the cell. So we have this situation where the cell is starving of potassium, but it's all just loaded up in the blood. It's called too much kalemia or potassium. It's rare. Only 1% of the people in the hospital have it. More commonly, it's hypokalemia, low potassium, but it's very rare, but it can happen, especially if you're taking massive quantities of potassium in your type 1 and your body is just not working. It's not able to drive it in the cell. I mean, the symptoms are palpitations, muscle pain, muscle weakness, numbness. It's highly unlikely that you're going to get this condition from consuming vegetables, okay? Even if you had 7 to 10 cups of vegetables a day. It's usually if you're doing massive like 5,000, 10,000 milligrams of potassium. So I just wanted to bring your awareness up that if you're a diabetic type 1, potentially your potassium could rise and you could have a problem, especially if you're trying to increase it. And then you should just know that that's the function of insulin, is to drive potassium in the cell, but because you don't have enough, it's not going in the cell, creating a situation, okay? So again, I think the most important thing to do is if you have any of these symptoms and if you're concerned about it, get a blood test, see if it is high. It might not be, but definitely also get an intracellular test to measure how much potassium and other minerals are inside the cell, because that'll give you more data. All right? Thanks for watching. Hey, before you leave, I just wanted to give you a little quick history on some of the books that I wrote. This was one of the first books. It's called Dr. Berg Body Shapes. It was my attempt at writing about body types. What was very interesting about this book is I actually did all the images myself. Don't ask me why. They look actually not quite as professional as some of the images that I have in the new book. But anyway, this is my first attempt right here called Dr. Berg's Body Shape Diets. And then I wrote a book more extensive called The 7 Principles of Fat Burning. I don't even have a copy anymore, actually, because it's outdated. The next book, I put about 1,000 hours into this one right here called The New Body Type Guide. Major updates on the body types. I put a lot of energy into this. It has professional images, graphics, all sorts of things. Now, the problem with this book is it doesn't really describe what this is really about. Body types are only a small portion of what's in this book. And that's why I changed the name to the Healthy Keto Plan, okay? If you happen to have this book, you don't really need this book because there's only very, very minor updates. But if you don't have this, you need to get this one right here. This book goes into every single detail that you would ever want to know about. It goes into the 7 principles of fat burning. It goes into hormones, the body types, the basic keto plan. It goes into intermittent fasting. I talk about the 10 fat burning triggers and blockers and fat burning strategies with a lot of details in every single chapter. I go into body issues that interfere with losing weight. There's very few people that just have a weight problem. They have a lot of body issues, whether it's sleeping problems, stress problems, inflammation, menopause. I cover that extensively in this book. Then I talk about how to get rid of stress, and I show you a technique. Then I get into exercising, And then I have a lot of really good recipes in this book as well. So this is a good reference guide. On my website, if you get this book, you get this one free. It's called Healthy Keto Intermittent Fasting. This is the shortcut, quick guide to this book. And the reason I created this book is to have you, within 45 minutes, learn how to do keto, okay, in intermittent fasting, exactly what you need to do. Then you can fill in the blanks with this book right here. So right now I'm doing a special. If you get this book, you get this one totally free, or you can go to Amazon and get these individually. So I just want to clarify the difference between this book and this updated one right here. If you don't have this, you need to get this right here. That way you can get the exact correct information to do it healthily.